Hello and welcome to week 12 in Statistics for Psychology. And we just got done talking about the t-test, the related pairs, matched groups, experimental control group kind of world that we see, and the t-test that we use for that. Now, as we look at these two tests, we look at the matched pairs, or whichever word we're going to use to describe that, the matched pairs t-test, and then you have the independent samples t-tests. What we are changing is the independent variable. In the matched pairs, there's an independent variable that is a function of both groups. The groups are pretty much the same, whether or not you're doing a pre-test, post-test, where it's exactly the same people, or you're doing a experimental group, control group. They're matched in terms of their, any sort of demographics that are important to your particular experiment. And they get the same intervention, and you're looking for the effect of that variable on those groups. When we look at independent t-tests, independent samples t-tests, the membership in the group is the independent variable. So you take a population and we'll take categories, let's say men and women, or we'll take racial categories, we'll take wealth categories, and we're going to compare them based upon an outcome or a dependent variable. The independent variable is group membership. What group do you belong to? So if we're going to just do a study on the effectiveness of using slideshows in a classroom, I can do an independence. I can do a control group within students, and just have a random group of students getting slideshows, another group not getting slideshows, getting something else as kind of a placebo of some kind, or filling in what the slideshow would have done, and then compare them. Okay, the slideshow is the independent variable. The outcomes on some test is the dependent variable. However, if I'm going to then carry that another step, and I'm like, well, is there a difference between the majors? So let's do this with nursing, let's do this with psychology, let's do this with biology student, line workers, machinists. Let's look at all these different groups and see how slideshows affect each one of them. Slideshows is the common. The slideshows, of course, are a variable there, but we're comparing the groups. Do you know who benefits the most? Was it nurses benefit more than psych students from having slideshows in their classroom? So you're looking at the groups. So that's where we're going into now with the independent samples t-test. The discussion, which has already started, to look up articles that are using independent samples. What you will likely see is a combination of independent samples and matched pairs sampling testing. That's what you'll often see, one leading to the other. The quiz is simply to relate what I just talked about. What is the difference between an independent samples t-test and a related pairs t-test or experimental design? And finally, there's an assignment where we group sharks together. You have Atlantic sharks and we have Pacific sharks. Which ones tend to be bigger? And so the variable is where they come from. That's the group they belong to. Are they Atlantic sharks or are they Pacific sharks? So that's what we'll be doing this week. This is a lot of these tests right here. These are a pretty big part of what research psychology is all about, is using matched pairs and independent samples t-tests. So this is two big topics in this particular class. So that's it for this week. You be well, and I will see you next time.